Joe Garte, #1 North American Championship point
Oh no.
in the nation. What are you doing here?
I'm watching the North American International Championships.
Oh, what North American are you rooting for in Top Cut? Marcus, I saw you was in top 16. What are you doing here?
Oh no.
Watching the North American International Championships.
3-time regional champion Justin Tang, one of the favorites to take the title home for North America. Justin, what
Oh
are you
no.
up
Yikes.
Nothing, man. I'm just watching.
to? Well, anyway,
Oh,
North
man.
American International Championships continue to
No,
happen. Take it away.
That's crazy. What's going on, YouTube? Clover Bells here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be going over the North America International Championships in its entirety. So the clip that you just saw was actually one of the highlights of the event itself, where you saw Joe Brown in the audience spot interviewing Joe Garte, Justin Tang, and Marcus Dion, and he was kind of trolling them a little bit. They were good sports about it. How, he was asking them, why are you guys like watching the events instead of playing it? That's because he was hinting at there was not a single American in the top 8 when we are, in fact, at a North America International Championships. In fact, there was a tweet even after that where I got to see someone tweeted out where NAIC stands for North America Italian Championships. That's also because there was 4 Italian players within the top 8. And of course, we had the all-Italian final where we got to see Federico Camporesi versus Marco Silva, 2 fellow countrymen, 2 roommates, right, go at it. And of course, it was Fede coming out on top. We'll preview those teams in just a bit. But another kind of storyline with these two is they actually played the Masters finals first, where normally they would play that last. I think it was because both of these had flights to catch, right? Yeah, just because, I think the event on the final day ran a little bit longer than expected, due to the other things being shown previously before VGC. So they decided to play Masters first, where normally it would be played after juniors and after seniors. And, even in the trophy presentation, both of these, they weren't even present anymore. They were already, trying to go to the airport and catch their flight home. So, but yeah, anyway, back to NAIC. We have all the data from LabMouse. Again, we thank the guys over there very much. Without LabMouse, we can't make videos like this, or it would be incomplete rather. So we need this to be able to paint the picture and tell the story of what exactly happened here at this 3-day event. 1,100 players, like I said, the last real big event before the World Championships. That means certain players needed this to be able to qualify for the World Championships, whereas other players would ultimately just barely miss out there. And just for those people, there's no shame about it, right? They should still be glad, for what they accomplished this time around. I just think the system needs to change a little bit, but we can't do anything about it, right? It is what it is. But for those who just barely missed out, listen, you have all the more reason to be proud of yourself. Again, it's a tough season. It's a tough, line to cross, to be able to qualify. But of course, there's just always next year for those people, right? But before we even go over the teams and, the cores and the usage rates, there was one little story that I also want to show here. And I believe it was this one. I think, to me, this was like my favorite part of the event. And it wasn't even like VGC related. It was actually, amongst TCG, I believe, right? It was a brother and sister in the juniors, right? They made it to the finals and they got to actually play each other, which was actually pretty cool. It was the sister Annabelle, and I forget the name of the brother. It'll come to me slowly, but I thought that was kind of really cute to see. It's something that they'll remember for the rest of their lives. So shout outs to them. I think it's pretty cool that was able to happen. I don't know if that's ever happened in VGC. Maybe at one day Marco will play his little brother Pietro in the finals. Who knows? But yeah, I just thought that was really cool to see. But anyway, let's go back to LabMouse. Let's go ahead and let's see what exactly transpired at this event. But even before this, let's take a look at the usage rates. Okay, let's take a look at the day 1 top 4 restricted pairs. Of course, you're going to see Calyrex Ice Rider and Miraidon at number 1, and the CSR Zamazenta at number 2. And I think those two will flip-flop between first and second for the remainder of the time until the World Championships, especially in the grassroots tournaments coming up here. Coming in at number 3, you got CSR and Koraidon. Now, you can play this a couple of ways. Some of them have the weezing variant, of course, just like our rental. Otherwise, you can go without the weezing and just go like full-on balance, especially with the Raging Bolt and Chien-Pao. And then coming up here at number 4, you have the Lunala and Miraidon combination here. So again, also couple ways to run that, especially whether you run Ursaluna or you go with the fast mode with Whimsicott, or maybe even the screens variant with Grimmsnarl, and maybe you go with the Calm Mind Lunala variation there. So people were trying that. Okay, but then as you go into day 2, take a look at this, and there's really not a whole lot of difference except for like a higher conversion rate. You still have Ice Rider Miraidon at number 1, CSR Zamazenta at number 2, and then Koraidon Shadow Rider at number 3. But look at this. How about Zamazenta Miraidon overtaking Lunala Miraidon at number 4 there? And this is also a pair that we built a rental about. And again, if you want to try that, feel free to take a look at our 10 rentals and, you know, give this pair a try. But this is something that has been on the rise recently, especially with the use of Volcarona on some of those archetypes, and Chien-Pao as well. And, you know, for good reason, because again, you know, with Zamazenta, with wide guard support, that really helps against something like Ice Rider going for Astral Barrage, or even something like, you know, Chien-Pao being able to pressure Miraidon a little bit. You can pressure it right back with the Zamazenta. And just another good, strong physical mod partnered with a strong special attacker is just usually a pretty good idea. But of course, you know, a dragon type, a steel type, and then you can add a fairy type here with something like either Whimsicott or Grimmsnarl, and then you have your fantasy core in itself there, right? But of course, the clear-cut winners right now are, even though it didn't win, of course, again, Miraidon and Calyrex Ice Rider, very, very strong combination, and then the CSR Zamazenta at number 2 there. And again, like I said, these two are going to be neck and neck, I think, as we head in closer into the World Championships here. But again, lots of different ways to utilize these cores, and it really just depends on the player, how they want to play the team, okay? And some of the options are going to be swapped in and out, but as far as like the cores, you know, they may have the same 3 or 4 or even 5 mon core, but again, that last slot or that last 2 will make all the difference here. Very clearly, you still have 2 of the 4 dominant archetypes that feature a strong ghost type and a strong fighting type, because again, with the fighting type, you're able to pressure the dark types that are going to pressure your Shadow Rider, so that's where Zamazenta and Koraidon can do relatively well. And then the partners for Zamazenta and even Koraidon are also pretty good partners for Calyrex Shadow Rider, so there's a lot of good synergy there. And then, of course, when you have Miraidon and Ice Rider, again, with Ice Rider sometimes struggling a little bit against the bulky water types there, this is where Miraidon can come in and pressure those slots, especially with the recent uptick in Kyogre leading into NAIC. So really good ideas there. And then, you know, even though you did see it drop out of the top 4, Lunala Miraidon is still a very, very good archetype. And again, you can go the Calm Mind variant, but you don't have to. You can still opt for the screens component or even the non-screens component, still go with the Electric Seed wide guard idea. And, you know, that's pretty much what you saw in the finals, right? Where Federico was able to utilize Lunala Miraidon and still come out on top there because of the wide guard support. And he caught Marco not once, not twice, but 3 times with the wide guard idea. So there's still, you know, a very, very good space. Very, very good space. There's still a good amount of exploration that can be had with this pairing there. And, you know, I think any of those 5 can win the Worlds. And, you know, it really just depends who can catch fire, right, at the right time. Because I think these are all good archetypes. I don't think there's one, you know, clear better over the other. You know, there's 1 or 2 more popular ones, right? But as far as like which one is like better, depends on the player, depends on the time, depends on the matchup. And of course, sometimes all it takes is 1 crit, 1 paralysis, okay? And all of your dreams can either go up in smoke or they can all come true here, right? But what is making these 5 archetypes, you know, the best of the best, right? So it also comes down to the partners. And a lot of those partners are going to be within the top 12. So let's take a look at that and let's see what those are looking like. All All right, so here we are at the day 1 uses for non-restricteds, and good old reliable Fire, Water, Grass, Incineroar, Urshifu, and Rillaboom at numbers 1, 2, and 3. And of course, Incineroar being at number 1 there, 46%. And listen, no doubt about it, the fake out boys with the Pokemon that always crits, they'll always be at the top of their game. And then, of course, Amoonguss and Grimmsnarl and Iron Hands. Those would have been my 6. In terms of like tops of the 12 there, maybe even the Raging Bolt sometimes over the Iron Hands. But again, Amoonguss is still good, even with so much Miraidon where you can't Spore. It's still very good because sometimes now a lot of these teams, they'll feature both Rillaboom and Amoonguss on the same team, and what you can do now is swap in your Rillaboom, change terrain, and now your Amoonguss is free to Spore because you did just that, right? Amoonguss gives you that Trick Room matchup. Grimmsnarl here, of course, you know what this is doing in regulationI. Screen support in a format where there's so much restricted legendaries dishing out so much damage. You need a way to mitigate damage. Incineroar, Amoonguss, and or Grimmsnarl can do just that for you. And then Iron Hands, good on any kind of team. Good on the hyper offensive teams, good on the balanced teams, good on the Trick Room teams. You know, it's not just the Miraidon teams that are featuring Iron Hands here. It's very splashable on most teams, right? You know, well, Iron Hands is one of those staples where like you just slap it on there and your team is just instantly better no matter what, in most cases. Fake out pressure, same thing. Again, super bulky, gets a damage boost in electric terrain, which is going to be often because there's so much Miraidon running around. Low kick does insane damage, especially with the attack boost. It does like 50% to even like an Ice Rider. So, you know, and of course, it's also very, very useful against something like Miraidon as well, right? Then Chien-Pao Raging Bolt there, you know, coming up at number 7 and 8 there, you know, the bottom half of the top 12 there. Again, Miraidon, Raging Bolt is like, you know, your poor man's Miraidon without actually having a Miraidon on your team. Super bulky, can do a lot of damage. Priority, Thunderclap, Electro Web. It gives you a lot of tools that Miraidon cannot give you, and it's great on some of those balanced teams, especially the Calyrex, Shadow Rider, Zamazenta squads. Chien-Pao, again, being able to blow up terrain from Rillabooms, Indeedis, and Miraidons especially, pressure them with Ice-type damage, Sucker Punch for Lunala and Calyrex Shadow Rider. Sometimes you'll see them run the Runation Tech, maybe even Taunt. Lots of use for Chien-Pao. Again, also very splashable on a lot of different teams. Chi-Yu, also very good, paired with Fluttermane here, which, by the way, is one of the surprises within this top 12. No Fluttermane in top 12, which is very, very interesting, right? But again, Chi-Yu, very good as a pair with those Koraidon teams and or those Shadow Rider teams, and sometimes even the Miraidon and Lunala teams as well, right? Because again, you're able to boost your damage thanks to Beads of Ruin. Your base speed 100, you do more damage in the sun thanks to Koraidon. And of course, you are a dark type, so you can pressure the Lunalas and the Shadow Riders. And with the Scarf, you naturally outspeed the Shadow Rider anyway, which is really, really useful. Volcarona, very good against Koraidon and Zamazenta. Of course, we know this by now. You can play this supportive with something like, you know, Will-O-Wisp, Rage Powder, Tailwind support. Struggle Bug is really good. Sometimes you can even sweep and go for the late game option with Quiver Dance. The bug typing is very, very good. Flame Body is busted if you can burn the right physical mon at the right time. Of course, it can just win you the game and make your opponent big sad. Whimsicott, the other prankster mon, coming in at number 11, and then Ferrograph, of course, being able to take away priority, also important. Look how many priority mons we have here. The top 3 have priority moves with Fake Out and Aqua Jet. Grimmsnarl has tons of prankster moves there. Same thing with Iron Hands, your Fake Out. Chien-Pao, Sucker Punch, deny that. Deny Thunderclap, deny Whimsicott, other kinds of prankster moves there. So Ferrograph is still very, very useful. Good bulky Trick Room setter. And, you know, I feel like it'll always make a run within top 12 or even like top 15 over here. So, but yeah, like this is pretty interesting. And it's, again, like all dependent on the meta. Like you're going to need these staples depending on particular matchups. But it all depends on how you want to play the particular squads, right? But then what's really interesting is if you look in day 2, look at this change. Oh my goodness. First of all, what is the first change that you see that jumps out at your screen? Yes, I understand there is the return of Fluttermane within the top 12, but that's not even like the biggest thing there. Look at Chien-Pao rising at number 2. What? That is the highest I have seen Chien-Pao. Forget about the format that we're in. That is the highest I have seen Mr. Pao in a usage rate there, almost at 30% there. And again, like we explained, like what it can be used for, but you know, a lot of these Chien-Pao teams are those cores are looking like this, right? So for example, I think one of the best cores right now is just this Calyrex Shadow Rider. Let me just type that correctly here. Shadow Rider, you got Zamazenta, of course. Then you just add the Chien-Pao, which helps Zam do, you know, even more damage. And then from here you add Raging Bolt there, and this is the core of the Ghost Rider archetype, as some people are calling it. From here you can do a couple things here. You could slap on Amoonguss and something else here, maybe even Urshifu, or maybe some speed control, or maybe even Volcarona, whatever. But this is one essence of the core here, right? And after this, you can also utilize Chien-Pao on some of these other teams that are running around here. So it doesn't even have to be like the just only Calyrex, Shadow Rider, and Zamazenta, right? There's a couple other stuff that you can do here. And I'm going to swap out one restricted here. Instead of the Calyrex, I'm going to go with Miraidon, right? Because this is also something that we had in our rentals. So Miraidon, Zamazenta, Chien-Pao, and then the last one here is actually Volcarona. We have a team like this as well. So if you want to use this rental, feel free to utilize it on our channel because this is, again, Miraidon, Zamazenta was one of the rising archetypes. And this is one of the premier cores for that archetype is this Volcarona, you know, being that the glue that makes a lot of this work here. But again, Chien-Pao here looking really good as another addition to this. And then just, you know, you can even do like this where you can have, instead of Volcarona, like even like Iron Hands here. If you even don't even want to use Volcarona. Where's the Iron Hands? Yeah, there we go. So like this is also another core that utilizes Chien-Pao to an extent, right? But anyway, then if you go back here, what else is jumping out at you? You know, Rillaboom and Urshifu dropping down quite a bit. And then Raging Bolt shooting up into 4th place there. Again, we just showed you a lot of those, some of those cores there. And then Whimsicott, look at Whimsicott there, still staying within the top 12, but look who drops out. No Grimmsnarl in day 2 top 12 usage rates. That is very, very interesting. You know, with all the fake out and, you know, with the fairy coverage coming from Fluttermane or, you know, just anti-priority moves in general, something like a Ferrograph there, sometimes Grimmsnarl gets, you know, it becomes a dead slot because you can just crit through screens, right? You do big, super effective fairy damage, especially if you're Terra Fairy. So all in all, sometimes Grimmsnarl does have its struggles a little bit. And if you have a lot of redirection on your side, then, you know, sometimes that Thunder Wave is just not really going to matter, right? So you have that going for you. And then, of course, we have the return of Fluttermane there within the top 12. But look who also enters the top 12 there. Smeargle, a.k.a. the Paint Dog. Like there was a lot of Smeargle on some of these teams, especially within day 2 there. And you'll see a lot of those cores in a second. But again, the whole idea with Smeargle is, let me just spotlight it for a second. You know the set, right? It's just all about this. And it's not even on like those hard Trick-Room teams that's where you like would normally find Smeargle most commonly used, you know, with the decorate plays. But look at this set. You have Fake Out, you have Spore, that's Soak. You have Decorate there. Where is Spore there? Okay, these 3 moves are what makes Smeargle the demon that it is. And then you just slap on a Focus Sash sometimes, or most cases, right? And look, you've got Fake Out where you can set up your partner mon. You have Spore where you can put things to sleep. And you have Decorate where you can boost some things, you know, damage. And it's not just the Ice Rider. You can boost up the Shadow Rider. You can boost up Miraidons, right? This is how you break through Grimmsnarl screens, right? You just boost yourself where you're just doing more damage than Grimmsnarl is mitigating. And now all of a sudden those screens don't even really matter, right? And again, Smeargle, if you have like this Grass Terra, you just also kind of ignore the Amoonguss altogether. So again, it's gonna rise a little bit more as you get closer to Worlds, but it's just very interesting that we finally have Smeargle. Imagine this thing still had Dark Void within your top 12 there. And we'll look at those teams and you'll see how some of those squads were able to utilize Smeargle here. But what a very interesting day 2 there. Chien-Pao Up there at number 2 now, Smeargle also entering the graphic. No Grimmsnarl here. Fluttermane returning to the graphic. And of course, Raging Bolt there still, looking really, really good there, right? So now let's look at the teams. Let's look at the top 8. And then from there, we'll look at some of the other variations of some of those popular archetypes that still also did relatively well. All right, so now let's change over to Lab Mouse and let's look at the top 8 results here. So the winning team here, Federico Camporesi, Lunala Miraidon, but not the Calm Mind variant from Lunala. It is just straight Electric Seed, Wyguard, and Trick Room here, utilizing the strong combination of Ursaluna as well, where you can Earthquake and click Wyguard at the same time. You stop their spread move and you stop, your own spread move for damaging your own Pokemon, right? Then you have Whimsicott here. Just Tailwind, which, your Urshifu and your Miraidon are definitely going to appreciate. It's a banned Urshifu. It's going to do a lot of damage. And then you have AV Incin. Again, with the Salt Vest, you can EV this to survive a Draco Meteor from a Miraidon. You can also help survive against the Electro Drift Miraidon, okay, without having to Terra Grass there, which means more EVs are flexible for the Impish nature, more physical defense, because you have, the benefit of the Assault Vest to survive set attacks from the Miraidon. So pretty standard team that has been already known and has done well before. And Federico says, you know what, I think this can win. And he said, and he did win, right? Because it has a lot of good ideas. You have both forms of speed control here. Okay, you have aggressive Mons with the Urshifu and Miraidon. Then you have Incin for, the fake out pressure, the defensive presence on your team. The pivoting potential here with U-turn, of course, is really, really nice. And then, of course, Lunala just being able to provide that Wyguard support. The Mind Games, of course, with the Wyguard. The Moongeist Beam with, just good solid chip damage. And then you just clean things up with something like Miraidon and or Urshifu there. So, coming up over here, you've got Marco Silva. Again, this is where Wyguard came in really handy, right? Because of the Astro Barrage idea. But it's Nasty Plot, Calyrex, Shadow Rider with Life Orb. So look at this. You have double Fake Out here with Incin and Rillaboom. And then you have Ogerpon Heartflame with redirection support. And then Raging Bolt here is just a good solid balance mon. Another special attacker on the team. Priority Thunderclap, good strong Thunderbolt damage. Again, +1 booster energy is going to do a lot of damage. Super bulky. And the Terra Electric, just makes it so that you can start picking up KOs. And then Zamazenta, again, the Wyguard support. It's great into the mirror matchup, but all in all, Body Press is just going to do so much damage, right? Then, for third place here, Japanese player Kazuki Kobayashi. He's going with Calyrex Ice Rider and the Miraidon combination here. Again, most popular duo to use right now. And he's going with this direction with Ferrograph and no Iron Hands, but instead you've got AV Incin yet again. And you have Landorus that is really good into the mirror because, again, ground type is really strong into the Iron Hands and the Miraidon. Sandseer Storm is nice against, stuff like Kyogre, where they bring out their rain. And then now all of a sudden you have Sandseer Storm, spread damage. It's also pretty good outside of the rain. You just have to make sure you hit. It's Scarf Urshifu instead, and it's Leech Seed, Calyrex Ice Rider with no Grimmsnarl screens, but it's still relatively useful. But again, most of the Ice Riders that you'll run into will be running the Leech Seed idea at the moment, but that doesn't mean that they all are. Some of them are still the Brave or Adamant variations with something like High Horsepower or Close Combat or Seed Bomb. Eric Rios here at number 4. He's got there's the 4, right? Miraidon, Zamazenta, Chien-Pao, Volcarona. It's Seeds Volcarona, so you're gonna get a nice defense boost there, and you can get a special defense boost with the Quiver Dance. So all of a sudden the Volcarona is hard to break, and then you have recovery coming from Rillaboom Grassy Terrain. And it's the other Ogerpon coming in, the Grass type variant, with the Defiant, Spiky Shield, Ivy Cudgel, Taunt, and Encore. Wow, what a set there. But all in all, it's a different way of playing this, but it's Scarf Miraidon, right? So that means you can afford to go modest and win every single speed tie, because even if they are max speed timid, you as a Choice Scarf user will be able to win the speed tie. You have Snarl, right? So if you combo Volcarona, Electric Seed, or even Zamazenta, with the physical defense, and then you add special attack damage mitigation with stuff like, Quiver Dance and Snarl, now all of a sudden your mons are going to be relatively hard to remove. Okay, Chien-Pao with Ice-Go Crash, over Ice Spinner so you don't blow up either of your terrain. Sucker Punch and Crunch for your physical dark moves, and one, of course, being a priority move there. Cool team from Rios. Then this is one of the archetypes that was starting to rise a little bit more after the most recent regional. It was this Miraidon Pagos idea with Calm Mind, and more people are starting to use this duo over something like CSR and Terapagos Calm Mind. And in fact, there wasn't that many in day 2. I think there was just one CSR Pagos, which we'll spotlight in a little bit later portion of the video. But look at this. So you've got the Seed variant. So now you got your physical defense, you got your Calm Mind, your special defense boost, just like Volcarona Quiver Dance. And then you've got support from Incineroar, Intimidate, more physical attack damage reduction. And you've got Snarl Miraidon yet again, more special attack damage reduction. And then you've got Sinistra for healing, which is really nice because, again, you can get your ability back thanks to the healing from Hospitality. And you also have the support from Rage Powder, which is important because if something wants to click a fighting move into Pagos, for example, let's say Body Press or Close Combat or Collision Course from a Koraidon, then Sinistra can just redirect that and it gets whiffed because you're a Ghost type, right? So that's one of the benefits there of having Sinistra and Terapagos. I think it's a useful trio, right? Where with Miraidon as well, and then you add some balance ideas here with Incin, just Fake Out and Parting Shot, and then the ground type aggression from the Iron Treads here, along with Scarf Urshifu with Rain Dance. Okay, that could be useful against some of the Sun teams. So shout outs to Francesco there, pretty cool idea there. Another Japanese player here at 6th place, Yuma Kunugawa. Okay, there's the Paint Dog. Okay, there's Calyrex Shadow Rider. There's Zamazenta, ready to get decorated, going for these +2 Astro Barrages. It's the Tailwind Tornadus variant. Ooh, with Sharp Beak. Oh, hello, more damage there. And then Rillaboom, just providing terrain control and balance. Then over here, Ruben at number 7. Again, there's that core with Calyrex Shadow Rider, Zamazenta, Chien-Pao, and Raging Bolt. Then you have Amoonguss. And then Rillaboom just rounds it out there. And like I said, what you can do here, especially against those Miraidon teams, you swap in the Rillaboom, and now Miraidon doesn't have his terrain anymore, and the Amoonguss can Spore. You got your Trick Room matchup. You have Encore from your Shadow Rider, which can really lock things, especially if it's a Fake Out Mon. Taunt from Chien-Pao, we talked about a little bit earlier. It's the Life Orb variant. And again, the question that you have to ask yourself here is, do I go Life Orb, Chien-Pao versus Sash? And and I can flip-flop that with the Calyrex Shadow Rider. In this case, Ruben is going with Life Orb Pao and the Sash Shadow Rider there. Booster Energy, Raging Bolt there. Again, really, really good core. And then just this core in general, like Raging Bolt, Chien-Pao, and Amoonguss. You got your Bolt Beam coverage, but these three can be slapped on a lot of other 3-man cores because just how well they synergize together, right? Then, as we go down to the final slot here, Gabriel Agati at number 8, which might be the most interesting team of the 8. You've got the support from Screamtail, of course, Encore Disable. But look at this. It is Leech Seed Shadow Rider along with Substitute. That's a set. And then, just Clear Amulet, Koraidon. Everything else is relatively standard, I gotta say. By the way, that is a Wellspring Ogerpon in the top 8. Hello, Kyogre, check. Hello, Urshifu Surging Strikes, check. But that's pretty cool. I mean, Leech Seed Shadow Rider. I think we got to see this on stream too, right? And then, of course, the Screamtail, just coming in and forcing you to get locked, right? You protect, you Fake Out, it just kills you, right? And then you're just forced to switch out. You're out of position. And you can capitalize that, something like free Astro Barrage into whatever comes in. Very devastating. Speed control coming from Fluttermane here with Icy Wind, but you got Fake Out and Redirection from Ogerpon. You got a lot of tools, if you're going to use Agati's team. So quite the diverse top 8, if what you will there. Again, there's 4 Shadow Riders, but different variants, right? There's Shadow Riders Zamazenta. There's actually there's 3 of them. 3 Shadow Rider Zamazentas and 1 Shadow Rider Koraidon there. Okay, and again, Raging Bolt there, very, very popular choice. 3 of the top 8 teams have a Raging Bolt on them, right? And there's only 1 Lunala team, and that was on the winning squad there. And again, Miraidon and Ice Rider are still like very relatively strong next to each other. Here, even in 9th place here from Bazad. That's another Miraidon, Calyrex, Ice Rider variant that you can definitely choose from there. But more on that as we look at the cores here. So again, now what we do is we're gonna look at, you know, those 5 popular archetypes, right? Those duos, and we'll start noting and start seeing the different variations that you can build around them, and we'll look at them as they did well throughout day 2 there. So let's take a peek. So let's stay with the Shadow Rider Zamazenta duo here. And again, what we're going to do is we're going to look at some of these supporting pieces, and we're going to see the variants in the sets and how you play the squads a little bit differently. So we've already covered Marco's team, we covered Yuma's team, and we covered Ruben's team. How about Maddie Morgan over here? So we don't have Paint Dog, but we do have the Whimsicott here over something like a Tornadus. But look at what Maddie's saying here. We've got Psychic and Substitute here, right? And we have the Whimsicott with Fake Tier support. So what we're saying here is we're not going to rely on setup. Okay, we want to be more aggressive. And what we're going to do is instead of relying on the Fake Out and the Redirection support to set up the Nasty Plot, we're just going to go with Fake Tier's Whimsicott and help us start picking up KOs with Life Orb, Calyrex, Shadow Rider with this Astral Barrage stuff, right? And, you know, Raging Bolt can also capitalize on the Fake Tier support too. And again, note the difference in the item between the Chien-Pao and the Calyrex Shadow Rider. Life Orb versus the Focus Sash there. So more offense coming from the Shadow Rider as opposed to Chien-Pao here with the Sash and the Taunt there. No fighting move there because you got the Body Press coming from Zamazenta. But you still have one redirector here in the Ogerpon Heartflame, which again also appreciates the support from the Chien-Pao here. But in your Trick Room matchup, you've got Substitute there, and you know when you alternate Substitute and Protect, you can already stall out 2 turns of set Trick Room there. You can also utilize the redirection support from the Ogerpon Heartflame, and you can keep stalling. And you know you've got Wide Guard from your Zamazenta at the same time there. So you have tools to help you get around Trick Room. But again, you see how that kind of plays a little bit differently as opposed to like, you know, Decorate or Nasty Plot there. It's just another way of utilizing that. How about this one from Victor Medina? Also still utilizing the Smeargle Paint Dog idea, but we're going a little bit more balance. And it's not even Decorate Smeargle, right? This is actually Wide Guard Smeargle. In exchange, we have the Nasty Plot here, which means, look at this. You've got the Fake Out Pressure Boys from the Rillaboom and the Instant, and you've got the Redirection from the Smeargle. So this plays a little bit differently than Maddie's, right? You don't have Tailwind, you don't have Fake Tears. You've got the Fake Out this time, so you can set up Nasty Plot, and you don't need Decorate anymore. So all you need to do is just be able to set up the Nasty Plot. You've got 3 Fake Out Mons over here, okay, with that redirection support. So that's just what we're trying to do. We're trying to enable the king, as you say, or protect the king with this kind of idea. Tim Edwards over here is going with Instant Rillaboom and Ogerpon Heartflame. No Paint Dog, no Tailwind whatsoever. Let me just go straight balance. I'm going with Nasty Plot here, okay? And I'm going Magnet Raging Bolt as opposed to Booster. What that means is sometimes if I pivot out the Raging Bolt, I still want to have my boosted damage as opposed to losing it if I do switch out. So therefore, we're going to go with the Magnet direction. And that means giving up initial damage for my Dragon Pulse, you know, which normally would get a boost if you had booster energy. But if I pivot in and out, I need a little bit more value coming out of my electric moves there. So shout out to Tim for the balance stuff. Okay, Ryosuke now has another idea here. So what we're saying here is with Indeedee, I might have the option for terrain control, not just from Rillabooms, but also Miraidons at the same time. One would think this is expanding force, but it's not, because what that might happen is you might be more susceptible to Wide Guard, because now you have 2 stabs, you know, at the mercy of Wide Guard, and that's not great. So let's still focus on boosted psychic damage instead, so single target as our way of getting around that. But look at this. This is Baton Pass Indeedee. And you can Baton Pass your special defense boost, you know, maybe into your Zamazenta, for example, right? So now you can get a defense boost and a special defense boost. But this Smeargle doesn't have Wide Guard. Instead, we have the Wide Guard coming from the Zamazenta already. Let's just go Decorate Smeargle, and let's go for all this boosted damage for our Life Orb Shadow Rider. And we still have Tailwind support here. So you got Tailwind, and notice there's no Trick Room here, not from the Indeedee. It's just a little bit more of a support set. Well, Indeedee's always support, but no Trick Room is an interesting choice coming from that idea. And we saw this a few times, actually, which we'll show you in a second. Kyle Livinghouse over here. Again, Bolt Beam coverage, Raging Bolt, Amoonguss, and Chien-Pao, that's a very solid trio that you can easily slap onto a dual restricted. Okay, but again, note the item difference. Life Orb Pao with Sash Chien-Pao here. So Taunt, Ice Cold Crash, Sucker Punch. Again, you don't want to blow up your own terrain, so you're going to opt for Crash. Among Us is just going to help you a little bit more into the Trick Room matchup. You know, Terra Water for that reason. Being able to resist the Glacial Lance. Encore Calyrex, of course, you can lock things that go for Fake Out or whatever. Some kind of setup moves, and now they just have to switch. They'll be out of position. So, yeah, you can definitely play it like that if you really want to. This one, another Paint Dog idea with Tailwind support and Urshifu Rapid Strike with Surging Strikes, Mystic Water. That means you've got Rain Dance on this Tornadus. One of the more older builds, right? You know, with these 5, and then you just slap on Smeargle here with Fake Out, Spore Pressure, Redirection Support, and Boosted Decorate. And now look at this. Now how about the Ting Lu variants? We haven't even spoken about these. And, you know, Chien-Pao, Ting Lu, Zamazenta, that's a core in itself, right? And what's really cool about these Ting Lu teams is, again, Sand Tomb damage. You trap things in. They take chip damage. You can put things in range for the Calyrex, right? And the Runation chip is going to be especially important because, again, when you have a Sash Shadow Rider instead of Life Orb, you're not doing as much damage as one would like, you know, with the Shadow Rider. So you need a little bit of help. Runation can give you that help. So you chip things down to 50%. You break Shadow Shield, you break a Sash or whatever, and then now all of a sudden these mons are in range for Astral Barrage, right? And something like Volcarona can be quite annoying, especially against Chien-Pao, or especially against Zamazenta. You resist both its stabs, and if it's a Quiver Dance Volcarona, then the Shadow Rider becomes a little bit tough to use against it because you're doing less damage every turn because it's always going for these Quiver Dance boosts to try and wall you out. So one way to deal with that, let's just hit it hard immediately with the Stone Edge from the Ting Lu, get it off the board, and now we can remove that check from Zamazenta, and now Calyrex can also start going for you willy-nilly, right? But again, there's that core of Among Us, Raging Bolt, and Chien-Pao yet again. And, you know, just the Ting Lu variants are also really good. And look at this. I think this is more or less the same idea. If I'm not mistaken, yes, pretty much. So you can also play it like this. You don't need Tailwind. You don't need your Paint Dog. Give me your Ting Lu instead. How about Yuki Xananovich? Is this more or less the same idea? Yeah, it's just the Baton Pass and DD stuff. How about this one? How about Chiyu over here, right? Being added to the fray here. Rishi Gupta. So instead of something like, you know, the Indeedee boosting up your damage, or like Paint Dog or whatever, you have the Chiyu here, and the Scarf Chiyu with Snarl is going to be important, but also with Beads of Ruin, just, you know, things have reduced special defenses, lets the Calyrex do a little bit more damage with the Astral Barrage. Among Us and Rillaboom on the same team, so now what you can do is, again, pivot in that Rillaboom, start clicking Spore with your Among Us. That's usually what people want to do when they have both the Rillaboom and the Among Us on the same team over there. This one has the Ogerpon Cornerstone, and this one has Trick Room, so it's not Baton Pass, so a little bit more traditional way of building, right? Psychic Nasty Plot, double Fake Out. You got the Redirection here. I'm sorry, double Redirection, and you've got the Fake Out here, so you can definitely set up this Nasty Plot over here. And then Joshua Denk here, again going with Whimsicott Fake Tear support yet again. We've seen that already. How about this one with the Clefairy variant? This is just screaming Nasty Plot here, but you're adding your second Ghost type here with Flutter Mane, Icy Wind support, Booster Energy, yes, AV Instant, okay, and again, Nasty Plot Calyrex here. So you can play it like this if you really want to, if you like Clefairy Friend Guard support, as opposed to like the Ogerpons or the Smeargles clicking Follow Me's and whatnot. So you can now obviously go that direction if you so choose. Is there another variant that we kind of missed here? No, this is just more Indeedees, more Chiyus, more Landorus. Oh yeah, this one right here. This one was pretty cool. Steven Stewart. Look at this. Prankster Thunderous, okay, with Choice Scarf Landorus here. So again, you still have the core with Zamazenta, Chien-Pao, and Calyrex Shadow Rider, but look at this now. Thunderous here with Rain Dance, Eerie Impulse, Thunder Wave. That's a normal set for Thunderous there. And then you have Wild Bolt Storm that you can click in the rain, right? And at the same time, if something wants to throw Kyogre at you, yes, you can always utilize that. But look at the Lander set there. Sandsear Storm, Grass Knot Sludgebound, Terra Grass, Grass Knot, by the way. That's definitely for like Kyogres and Urshifus, right? The Sludge Bombs for the Ogre Ponds, the Earth Powers and the Sandsear Storms for the Iron Hands, the Miraidons, for example. Yeah, you've got quite the tech choice here. So nice idea to use Thundurus here, right? 7-5 result. So shout outs to Steven for that. And how about this one right here? You know, I thought this might be like maybe we're trapping here, but you know, it's not Perish. It's just fake out, foul play, Gothitelle stuff with Talonflame and Urshifu. We've seen this before, so hard to switch out from Wicked Blow, for example. So you can trap things in. You can trap things, you know, with the choice specs, Astro Barrage ideas. Again, it's just how you pivot and use the Gothitelle is going to be key here. Nice to see Talonflame though. You know, you haven't really seen a whole lot of it, especially when you can just take away, Brave Bird priority. But you've got Quick Guard, which is quite useful sometimes. So shout outs to David for utilizing that idea. But that's pretty much it. So again, the moral of the story is, how do you want to play your Shadow Rider Zamazenta archetype? Do you want Tailwind? Do you want Indeedee on your team? Do you want a Mungus Rillaboom on your team? Do you want Ting-Lu support, right? Do you want the Ogre Ponds to help you out? So all in all, it really just depends on the player, but we've showed you different ways that you can play the archetype. There is just no one correct way of utilizing these two right now. Okay, next we'll look at the Miraidon and the Calyrex Ice Rider duo. And you know, there's a couple of easy ways to do this. You can do Grimmsnarl screens, right? And then you can start doing Leech Seed stuff. Very common thing to do, along with leftovers here. Or you can just go traditional Farigiraf and Iron Hands. Okay, and then the rest of the team will depend on how you want to play it, right? But these are not the only two ways to really do it. These are just two of the more common ways, right? But again, let's hop into Lab Mouse and let's see what some of these ways look like. So we've already looked at Kazuki's team over here, and we kind of previewed Bazad's a little bit here. So let's start here. So it's Scarf Miraidon and it's Calyrex Ice, Never Melt Ice. Okay, here's the Leech Seed, but no screens. You don't necessarily need it. Iron Treads as opposed to Iron Hands here. Here's your fast, strong ground type, really good into the mirror. Steel Roller gonna do tons of damage. Of course, high horsepower ground coverage is really, really nice. Instant Amoonguss defensive backbone. Those are gonna be helping you in the Trick Room mode, especially with the Ice Rider trying to set up said Trick Room, and then the Dark Urshifu variant, you know, probably for your Shadow Rider, Lunala, and Terapagos matchup. You know, it's a pretty easy mod to slap onto there. Carson Confer over here with the Ditto, okay, but here's the Grimmsnarl screens variant with Leech Seed. There's AV Miraidon with Snarl. There's the Ditto. You can copy it free restricted if you want. You don't have to. You can copy something else. But I'm just saying, you can get another free restricted on your team when you use something like a Ditto. Seeds Sneasler becomes the fastest thing in the format, right? And then, as long as you have Unburden. Look at this. How about Acid Spray Sneasler? Okay, that's pretty cool because, again, that's almost like the Fake Tears Whimsicott that we kind of just previewed with the Calyrex Shadow Rider, especially with Life Orb. But now, unlike Fake Tears, you can do chip damage, break sash, and now Miraidon can start picking up because, you know, with the AV, you don't have the same amount of damage that you normally would with the choice specs, but the Acid Spray can kind of compensate and give you some of that damage that you need to be able to pick up KOs, you know, with something like a Miraidon here, as well as the Ice Rider here. But again, you're not really going to use like Acid Spray with Calyrex Ice Rider. You're rather just going to go like Dire Claw, close combat stuff here. So, cool idea from Carson Comfer. Then as we go down here, this Landers variant yet again. This one, there's no Farigiraf on like Kazuki's team. It's just going with Instant Amoonguss yet again. And there is the Choice Scarf Landorus with Sandsear Storm, Sludge Bomb, and Crunch. Okay, Crunch Tech. How about that? Is that for the Lunalas and the Shadow Riders? I wonder if that is exactly what he has it for. Zachary Reed over here. This is going to, here's the Volcarona, right? So Miraidon, Calyrex Ice Rider, Iron Hands, and the Farigiraf there. There's your 4-man core. You add Volcarona to these teams. Rage Powder Will-O-Wisp. Okay, then you add the Surging Strikes Urshifu over here with Taunt. It's a Sash Urshifu. And it's still Scarf Miraidon here with Snarl. Again, trying to not lose into the mirror unless it's another Scarf Miraidon, of course. But again, Fiery Dance, you know, just if you can even get one special attack boost, it makes a huge difference there. But the redirection support is what we're looking for, especially when we have Ice Rider and Fergaf trying to set up Trick Room. Same thing here with Iron Hands. You can also lead them together, and then you can always swap in the Miraidon. I'm surprised this isn't C's. Oh, that's because it's C's for Fergaf over there. Marcus Dion there. It looks like the same kind of squad that Mr. Carson Confer was looking at over there. Yeah, pretty much. Oh, is this more or less this? No, it's not quite the same. How about Nishant over here at 23rd place? Again, still similar ideas here with Iron Treads, just being partnered with Miraidon. But again, there's that core with Fergaf, Iron Hands, Miraidon, and Calyrex Ice Rider. Let's get some balance ideas here with Instant, double fake out here. And then Treads is the fast ground type that is really good with these guys. Sometimes you'll also see Ursaluna in some variants, depending, or you'll either see the Landorus. Really just depends on which ground type do you want. How about this one? Whimsicott is on this team, and there's that Crunch Tech yet again from the Landorus. So nice, and there's another Crunch Tech from the Ice Rider. So we have double Crunch Tech from Landorus. It's AV Instant, it's Mystic Water Rapid Strike, but this is Specs, not the Scarf or AV Miraidon. So again, lots of different ways to use the Miraidon. Really just depends. But you're not really afraid of the speed time mirror because you have Tailwind on your team. So you can outspeed the Scarf variant. So that means you can go Specs, which means you'll win the speed war in that sense, right? But also note that the Calyrex Ice Rider, it's Glacial Lens, Crunch, Close Combat, no Trick Room, by the way. So very interesting choice from Riley Factura there. Andrew Ding here going with the Annihilate variation. Okay, look at this. Scarf Ape with Final Gambit and Coaching. Of course, we know what that can do. And, really just depends. Look, you can Final Gambit something, click Trick Room, and then go into something like Incineroar, for example. You have Ogerpon Wellspring, like we said earlier. We know what that's for. But, again, it's just, lots of creative ways to really play this idea. And, without the clear amulet, you're prone to intimidate. So, the Annihilate can, catch that and maybe start going for these fast close combats, these fast Shadow Claws, for example. Lots of different ways to do that. How about this one here? Yan Chak Lee, right, Richard? It's going with the Dondozo variant. I always say this right now with Dondozo. Lots of teams aren't really preparing for Dozo. There's no clear smog on their Amoonguses just yet. Nobody's running Haze right now. So Dozo's in a pretty decent idea, or a pretty decent meta right now, if you choose to use it. The only problem is you got double restricted, so you can out damage some of these boosts here. But it's Body Press Dozo as expected. Substitute Order Up. Tatsugiri here, Commander with Terra Normal. That's to whiff the Astral Barrage here. Draco Meteor, Helping Hand here. Again, just looking to pick up KOs here. How about this from, look at this Tinglu. Binding Band Tinglu, right, with Sand Tomb. That is crazy over here. All right, we really want this chip damage over here. This is another classic Volcarona Screens idea. This is a more traditional way of playing it, right? I think this is one of our rentals too, right? Fire Dance, Struggle Bug, Quiver Dance. Yes, makes a lot of sense. It's Leech Seed, Calyrex, of course. I agree, and it's Never Melt Ice just to do a little bit more damage. And as you scroll a little bit down, again, Chippa here, the Acid Spray Check. Yeah, same kind of stuff there. Nothing really else there. How about Darsh? What were you? Was this the thing that you were using on stream earlier before? Yeah, looks like it, right? Screens with Volcarona here. Oh, Quiver. Oh, Flamethrower there. Okay, yeah, instead of Fiery Dance there, and it's Scarf Ape here. Seeds, Calyrex again. I wonder now if Darsh would be willing to come onto the channel and help showcase the squad, right? But we'll have to wait and see. We'll ask, right? There's another Dondozo variant, and this one looks more or less the same there. There's the Binding Band, Tinglu, and as you go down, look at all the successful Day 2 Calyrex, Ice Rider, Miraidon teams. Look at all the different ways. The Sneasler Acid Spray idea is quite interesting there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, we got a couple more. Oh, how about this one? This one at 6.6. The Iron Bundle idea. I think this is like one of our earlier builds, right? When we did Ice Rider Miraidon team building there. But here we go. Freeze Dry, Icy Wind, Encore. Again, what's really good about Iron Bundle is you are 1 point faster than the other base 135s, right? So you're going to win the speed ties against the other Flutter mains. And then you got Chiyu going for Snarls. Again, Ferrograph Iron Hands Core with Miraidon Calyrex. Relatively standard team. This is one of the earlier variants of the squad that you can build, so nice to see that they're Richard. Okay, but again, for you, the viewer, I ask you, do you want Leech Seed or do you not want Leech Seed? Do you want Grimmsnarl? Do you not want Grimmsnarl? And the partners, Volcarona, ground types, Landorus, Iron Treads. These are popular options, or do you just want to go like traditional Ferrograph Iron Hands and slap on something like Incineroar after that? It's really up to you. All right, let's look at Miraidon Lunala now. And again, the main two ways that you want to utilize this is, do you want Calm Mind or do you not want Calm Mind? So if you want Calm Mind Lunala here, then you're going to need ways to set up your setup move, right? And usually that's just going to feature the Incineroar and the Rillaboom here. So double fake out. You have the secondary terrain here, which means sometimes you'll just go leftovers Lunala over here and just try and set up. And then the Miraidon can just be like your big instant damage dealer, whereas Lunala is the one that wants to ramp it up with these Calm Minds. So you can play that way, or you can play it this way, where you have the Ursaluna, the physical one, and then you have the Whimsicott here, just giving you speed control here with Tailwind support. Sometimes you'll have Incineroar here, sometimes you have Volcarona. Either way, maybe an Ogerpon, but this one doesn't use the Calm Mind variant. This is just usually the Electric Seed variant, right, with the Wide Guard support and the Trick Room idea, right? So the two main ways to really play it. And if we look at the teams, that's really what we're going to see here. So right over here, we saw Federico already, right? This was not the Calm Mind variant, right? This was just the support with Ursaluna over here. Now, if you look at Justin Knox's team, right? Grimmsnarl support, right? Incin, Rillaboom. This is just screaming Calm Mind support there, and it is, right? There it is. So damage mitigation is what we're looking for, right? Because we need turns to set up the Calm Mind, which means we need turns to soak up damage, but we can recover it over time when we have leftovers, Rillaboom terrain, and the Protect option, because that's just double recovery when you can alternate your Protect like that, right? And this is the Scarf Miraidon, right? Instead of the Specs, that's okay. Justin doesn't want to lose those speed ties, but you got the bulk here, with the Grimmsnarl screen. So this is one way to play that. Otherwise, you look at Luca's team here, which is more or less kind of a mirror idea with Federico. I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't, or if it was, it's there it is. The Band Ursh, the Whimsicott, Prankster, Tailwind support, the Wyguard, Trick Room, and here is the Ursaluna, right? Very standard team to play. Otherwise, you can have some other variants. Look at this one. You've got Pelipper here, 8 and 4. Another Wyguard user does give you weather control now too. And oh, look at this. Hello. What we're saying here is if we give up if we give up Wyguard for Lunala, that feels bad. I still want Wyguard on my team, but I still want to do Calm Mind. So you can add Incin and Rillaboom as planned, but now let's add something with Calm Mind. With Wyguard. So I keep alternating the two. And now I have weather control at the same time. This bird is always going to find ways to be used in a format like this, right? Because you got Wide Guard, you got speed control, and you've got weather control all in one Pokemon if you decide to go Tailwind. They did not, but they did decide to have the Wide Guard here, and it's the ability shield, right? Which is kind of funny when you think about it. That's just, for the annoying Weezing teams. But again, here we go. Calm Mind. It's Electric Seed Volcarona with okay, I wasn't even looking at it. There's your Tailwind, okay? Wasn't on Pelipper. You need all these moves. Well, we can go Electric Seed, Tailwind, Volcarona with Struggle Bug and Rage Powder. Okay, look at all this support. This is a cool team. I like this team, okay? It's another way of playing the Calm Mind idea, but still keeping things like, Wide Guard and Tailwind on your team. I like that a lot. This is really cool. Hopefully, they'll release a rental, or maybe we might have to reach out and take advantage of that. This one does not have that. This is just straight up Calm Mind with the Fake Out Boys and an Urshifu instead of a Pelipper, which we respect. Here we go. Tailwind, Rage Powder, Struggle Bug yet again. So, do you want Pelipper or do you want Urshifu, right? That's really what we're asking in this sense. And, Volcarona and Incin on the same team. You're going to see that a lot, right? But again, more or less doing the same thing. And you're just seeing carbon copies at this point, right? Because it's a very popular archetype. So not opting for the Grimmsnarl screens, which is okay, right? You don't have to go Grimmsnarl screens if you want to go like the Calm Mind variant. It just helps, but it's another playstyle that you could utilize. But other than that, you know, you're still going with the Ursaluna variant. And you can see there was only a couple of them, right? Even here with Oscar Gray, is this more or less the same as the other two? It is pretty much, right? So yeah, those are, we'll see if other builds come on and about, but right now these are the two main ways to really look at it. One of my favorite new art types that is rising currently, again, it is that Zamazenta Miraidon idea, and they utilize the Volcarona quite a bit, okay? And they still have Chien-Pao coming onto these teams here, so you'll see a lot of cores that just use these four. Sometimes you'll also see the occasional Iron Hands here, and then after this, you might see something like a Whimsicott, a Grimmsnarl for that matter. But the pieces can alternate here, but a lot of them are going to have at the very least these two, right? So it's just a very good idea because, again, the Zamazenta, just with the wide guard support and the body press, can really help out the Miraidon here, especially, you know, you have that strong physical damage dealer, you know, alongside it with the wide guard that you don't have to suffer, you know, at the hands of the Glacial Lance, right? And that's really what you're looking for here. And then the Volcarona also helps you into the opposing Zamazenta matchup here. So if we look at those teams here, so we already covered Eric Rios' team, and look at look at Justin Tang over here, and look at this Grimmsnarl here. It's the standard set, right? This is exactly what we just said. So Specs Miraidon, Screens, Grimmsnarl, Flamethrower, Quiver Dance, Struggle Bug, Volcarona. All right, Sash Chien-Pao, AV Iron Hands. Very standard set here with the Flamethrower choice over the Quiver Dance, you know, just a little bit more base damage, right? So that's pretty good. Then there's the other ideas here. Look at this, Cresselia. Cresselia is actually interesting, right? Just because you have Levitate, okay? And look, with Bug and Levitate, that's quite the combo. Also with Fire and Levitate too. So look at this, Icy Wind, Thunder Wave, Lunar Blessing, and Psychic. Okay, first of all, you know, Cresselia already relatively bulky. Now you add Electric Seed on top of this, and it just physically becomes very, very hard to remove, okay? Then you add Snarl, reducing special attack damage, okay? Then you add Quiver Dance and Struggle Bug. Again, more ways to stall things in terms of damage, you know, with Volcarona and Iron Hands here. Just being able to be that, you know, dominant physical attacker in terrain with Miraidon here. Chien-Pao, Zamazenta, Miraidon, Volcarona. Again, there's that core. These two pieces are whatever. You know, we're going Iron Hand still, and then we're going with Cresselia, very interestingly enough. I wonder what was the conclusion and what led Sohab to utilize Cresselia here. Like, I understand what it's doing, but like, how did the idea come to like, okay, I want Cresselia over something like maybe Grimmsnarl or some other supportive mon here. But you know, I digress. Jody here, more or less the same kind of idea. How about this one, Kosuke, right? Because again, now we have the Whimsicott here providing Tailwind. So standard ideas, so, you know, again, Zamazenta, Miraidon, and then with Miraidon comes Fergraph and Iron Hands with Whimsicott. Then we add Chien-Pao here. So there's your core with Zamazenta. Another way to play it, right? And it specs Miraidon, not Scarf, not AV. And then this one, I was waiting for this one. The Nielsen brothers says, look, we can have Blood Moon Ursaluna and we can have Sneasler. Look at this. So let's look at their build. So Life Orb, Blood Moon Ursaluna. Again, you're not susceptible to Incinerate or Intimidate, which is cool. You've got Sneasler here with Electric Seed. Gunk Shot. Again, the Unburden idea. We covered this already. Instead of Acid Spray, we're going with this. And then Throat Spray, Throat Chop, and Fake Out. By the way, I want to say something. These guys have used this idea for a while now. This is dating back to like what they were doing in Regulation G. They're just readapting that for the current format with the dual restricted. So they're pretty much experts on what they're utilizing here. I just want to say that. But we've got Tailwind, we've got Rain Man, we got Weather Control, we've got Speed Control, two forms of Speed Control, and you know, that dominant ground type that we want to be able to, you know, deal damage in Trick Room, right? But Fergraph, Blood Moon Ursaluna is something that we've seen throughout Scarlet and Violet do relatively well. Was on our draft team, right? Back in Poke Ames draft league there. So nice to see that. Did Nicholas have any variants here? No, I think it was more or less the same idea, right? Fairy, Terra Dark, Terra Fire. Yeah, more or less. Okay. Yeah, pretty cool. Nice to be able to compete with your brother, right? I want to see this. I want to see a Nielsen finals. Okay, make it happen, Nielsen's. Okay, I want to see that. We saw it in TCG sibling final. I want to see that with the Nielsen brothers. Okay, Look at this. How about the Flutterman coming onto these teams? Andrew Gok here. So again, Icy Wind support. Give me the advantage here, right? Let me break Sash. Let me have a dominant fairy type that can, you know, pressure some of these other fighting types and dark types that might want to come here. But again, we've got Miraidon, Zamazenta, Chien-Pao here. Fergaf, no Iron Hands, but instead we can have Urshifu, we can have Flutterman here. Scarf Ursh is still okay. You don't need Tailwind. You can go for immediate damage without having worried about speed control. So that's cool. Then as we head down further here, one last variant, and this one is just straight up Insane, Volcarona, and Grimmsnarl. So yeah, I mean, no Iron Hands here. I guess that's like okay for that matter, but you know, look at this. This is Scary Face Grimmsnarl, which is why we're highlighting it here. So again, a little bit of a variance in the set there, but you know, just there's a few ways to use this right now. So the more traditional way is what Justin and the others are using, you know, with the Volcarona, Chien-Pao, Grimmsnarl, and Iron Hands there. Otherwise, there's a couple of other ideas that we showed you. Again, the Nielsen brothers had one. You can always use Flutterman on these, and you don't have to use Grimmsnarl. You can play without it, as what Eric Rios is also showing us over here. So we'll see what this duo looks like in the next VR tour coming up late June. But right now, it's a Rising Archetype. Okay, back to the Shadow Rider teams here. How about Koraidon here? So there's a couple ways to utilize this. Again, you don't have to do the weezing direction. You can if you want. It's very useful, right? You're going to have Ability Shield on the Koraidon, which again, we just featured this on our channel. One of our viewers was able to use our rental and win a Regulation G tournament, which is why we featured it. We don't have to do the weezing direction. You can still do stuff like, you know, Chi-Yu over here, and you can have Tailwind ideas, you know, like a Whimsicott, like a Tornadus, or like a Jumpluff, right? And then just go from here. Sometimes you'll also see like Brute Bonnet on these teams if you don't want to use Tailwind, Jumpluff, or you can use, you know, Whimsicott or Tornadus. But either way, you can capitalize, you know, with just these kinds of cores, right? So if you look at the Lab Mouse site, okay, we've already covered Agati teams. Look at what James is doing. This is pretty much the classic way with weezing. You've got Brute Bonnet, Chi-Yu, and Raging Bolt there. Again, Bolt has, you know, Assault Vest, Electro Web there, and it is Ability Shield Koraidon, and Fairy Move, Taunt, Protect. Now, you can go Poison Gas. You don't have to. Sometimes you'll see Will-O-Wisp on this, but Poison Gas just means, you know, you're damaging everything, chipping things down, so this way Astral Barrage can start picking up KOs. Otherwise, look at Jeremy over here, right? He's still sticking with weezing, but instead we're going to go Jumpluff as our last option over something like Raging Bolt. We do have Iron Hands though, but we've got Sleep Powder, we've got Rage Powder, we've got Tailwind, and we've got Encore too. So we've got options, and we're still going Poison Gas, and we still have Taunt and Protect, but instead of the special fairy move, we have the physical move in Play Rough. So you can definitely do that too. By the way, Imprison Calyrex, they're sick of the mirror, so is all of us. So they're saying, no more. Okay, Willow Connor says, look, I don't need weezing, but I do want Tailwind, so I'm going to go with Amoonguss, Raging Bolt, and Incin to patch things up there. And, you know, Raging Bolt is going to be the Life Orb support, which means I don't need the Ability Shield on my Koraidon. If I don't have the weezing, I can go another item. And in this case, they're going with AV Koraidon with U-turn there. Very interesting there. And it is Disable Calyrex Shadow Rider. Again, you can always bait something. You know, you can Protect first, then Disable second. If it is a not very favorable move that you want to be able to take. So that's something that's relatively useful. I like that idea. Shout outs to Will. Nick over here says, look, instead of Raging Bolt, how about Iron Hands instead? Better Trick Room matchup. Sure, why not? Let's go for it. Same thing over here, but look at the Chi-Yu Ruination tech. Okay, again, chipping things to 50%. Fast Ruinations are going to be important. And how about Shadow Ball here for our Calyrex Shadow Rider? Funny enough, right? Shadow Ball for the Shadow Rider. Manual Sun from Whimsicott, by the way. Sunny Day. So you see, it looks like a standard 6, but some of these tech choices make all the difference. I didn't even see Volt Switch Iron Hands. So look at the text that normally, you know, you wouldn't see on something like this. Volt Switch Iron Hands. Again, sometimes you'll see Sunny Day, not all the time. Then Shadow Ball Calyrex, and then Ruination Chi-Yu. That's 4 techs, right? On what is otherwise a standard 6. Torlaweb is going with the weezing variant. Is he doing anything different that we haven't seen already? No, more or less the same stuff. This one is something that we've seen previously in the other regional with the Snarl Walking Wake, the AV set. Yes, we have the Spell Tag Calyrex with Nasty Plot, okay, and it is Will-O-Wisp, Galarian Weezing with the Citrus Berry, mind I add. So that's pretty cool there. All right. Then we have both Whimsicott and Clefairy on the same team. So a lot of support here with Incin. That just screams Nasty Plot, and it is. And you have Raging Bolt here and a strong fire type to go with your Koraidon here. It makes a lot of sense. That is Roar Incineroar, by the way. So that's another tech. And it's still Fake Tears Whimsicott. So you don't always have to go for Nasty Plot. You can still go for instant offense and still go for Fake Tears. So they're trying to keep their options open. I can go for setup, or I can go for Fake Tears and just blow something up with the Astro Barrage. Smart idea from Craig. I like that a lot. How about this? Oh yeah, this one was one of the other unique teams that of the tour. How about Paul Ruiz's team with the Pachirisu and the Chestnut? Look at this. Okay, everything else is pretty standard, except the two options that I just said. So look at Pachirisu, Volt Absorb, Follow Me, Super Fang, Helping Hand, Protect. Super Fang, that has that Ruination effect, chip something to 50%, and then Volt Absorb. If you're a Miraidon player, what are you doing? You know, you're gonna you got to deal with the Pachirisu, right? And it's a redirection support. So again, I have the Nasty Plot idea. Chestnut again gives me Wide Guard without committing a restricted slot. I also get Body Press too. So you know, I could. So it's Iron Defense, Body Press. So look, I can get a Zamazenta in one with Body Press and Wide Guard, right? And then you know, knock off the occasional chip. Support move there, which is kind of funny. Like again, good use of Chestnut. Paul Ruiz has used Chestnut before, and now he found a way to bring it onto a double restrict team. So shout outs to Paul, one of the all-time GOATs for doing something like that. Okay, and now how about the Indeedee? This is something that we haven't seen all too much, but you can use Indeedee here. And again, same thing that I said last time, you'll get terrain control. You don't have to commit the expanding force, because then you're limiting yourself in front of someone else using Wide Guard there. You can still do stuff like Chiyu and Whimsicott there. Among Us is just your Trick Room matchup. Makes a lot of sense. A little bit more linear than the others, of course. But how about this one from David Lees? This one is utilizing King Gambit. How about that for a set there? King Gambit, obviously good matchup into Lunala and Calyrex. Not so great into Urshifu and Zamazenta. So I wonder what was the thought process in choosing the King Gambit. But, you know, to each their own. You've got Raging Bolt here with Snarl. And disable Calyrex with the Focus Sash there, right? So all in all, what it comes down to is, look, you know, do you want Tailwind? Do you want Weezing? And, you know, is your Raging Bolt or Iron Hands going to be your last electric slot mod there? So lots of options in terms of how you want to play the team. You can play Bounce, you can play with Tailwind. And again, you could play it the Weezing way if you choose to do so. Terapagos and the Calyrex Shadow Rider, you know, didn't have as strong of a performance as the other archetypes, right? You know, not as much day twos, okay? But there was still some, right? So the highest placing one was 50th place over here from Calvin Neeson. So let's look at this. Is this in fact a Calm Mind? No, it is not. In fact, you'll see this from a lot of them. They're opting to go a little bit more faster and more immediate damage, and they're going to start slapping on the Choice Specs Terapagos as opposed to going for the Calm Mind. If you want the Calm Mind variant, you know, that was used more with the Miraidon stuff there, right? Which is what people are opting for more now, which is fine. Otherwise, look at this. Smeargle, Decorate into Pagos or Shadow Rider looks very, very strong. And then you have the Tailwind variant with Whimsicott and Chiyu. Chiyu, of course, going to let both of these do more damage. You're both special attackers. Iron Hands, Fake Out Pressure, of course. So double Fake Out on this team. Trick Room matchup, of course. And look at this. Fake Tears Whimsicott again. So look, you got Decorate, you got Fake Tears, you got Chiyu. You got everything you need to boost these guys and let them do even more damage than they would already do by themselves. So I like that a lot. Shout outs to Calvin. Pretty cool team, actually. I like that variant. I would like to try it if they're willing to make the team available. Look at Santino here. This is your more traditional one, right? This is the Calm Mind variant that, again, we just said was falling a little bit out of favor because teams are opting a different Calm Mind build with the Pagos. Okay, so, but this is still one of the ones that is still remaining here, right? Ashton Cox over here is more or less using a similar idea that we just said earlier with the Specs Pagos, Tailwind Whimsicott, and the Chiyu over here, you know, just dropping things with Beads of Ruin. How about this one? This one almost looks like it. Must be like Calm Mind, right? Yeah, there it is. Okay, so we got 2. So Instant, Amoonguss, Ogerpon. Yeah, more or less the same idea. Disable Encore Calyrex for the Zamazentas, locking them out of their fighting move, which is really, really important. But look how similar these builds are. And I guess this is the latest rendition of this build, right? Just going for these decorates, these add the Chiyu here, and going with the specs idea on their Tailwind. Because after that, you don't really see a whole lot. It's just like the Calm Mind balance stuff, and they didn't really do so hot. So we see a different way of playing Pagos CSR. Whether or not this will do better than it did here remains to be seen. But they did have a lot of 8-4 results, so we'll have to see what happens with the archetype. But it now has changed, right? So you see the evolution of the archetype. You started with the Calm Mind idea. People said, no, there's a better way to do it. Now let's play this differently. And now they're going more immediately. They're going with more immediate damage with the more immediate offense is what I'm trying to say. How about Swordfish, man? So also not amazing results either. But the builds, they didn't really change, right? Everything that you've been seeing up until this point is exactly what you saw at NAIC, and they didn't do so hot. There were some day 2 teams, but not a whole lot. Like as expected, if you just have like Amoonguss and Urshifu here, this is usually how they like to start. After this, you know, give me a Tailwind Mon and give me a Fake Out Mon, right? So that's okay. That's usually the game plan right now with Swordfish. But I usually like these guys. Sometimes you'll see, you know, the Chien-Paos come in here, and then you'll have something like Incineroar, something like Tornadus. This is like one of the easiest builds you could do, or you could go the Dark Tailwind user, right, where it's something like Roaring Moon or Iron Jugulus, and go from there, right? So if you check Lab Mouse here, look at Keen Campbell. Of course, this guy has been using Swordfish for a very, very long time. So of course, he's going to be able to one that's been, you know, take it to a high placement. Same thing with Christopher Hahn, also has been using Swordfish for quite a bit. But look at this. I don't know if this is any different from his VR winning team, but here it is. It's 3 water moves Kyogre with the Splash Plate. That means the Urshifu is also the Mystic Water. So they both have 2 boosting water items. Here's the Tailwind Mon from the Roaring Moon, which again is great into the Ogerpons because of super effective acrobatics, good into Amoonguss, good into Rillaboom, knockoff for Lunalas and Calyrexes. And all in all, Kyogre loves Tailwind, okay? I want to click Water Spout. I'm going to do it if I have Tailwind. Chien-Pao Zacian, again, Sword of Ruin. Zacian does more damage, great. Swords Dance, also very good. You can outpace the Incineroars that want to cycle in. Urshifu in the rain and Tailwind spells disaster for your opponent, of course, so why not take advantage? Amoonguss is just my Trick Room matchup, or ways to protect my Roaring Moon, so this way I can get up my Tailwind or set up my Swords Dance for that matter, right? Sometimes you might just do like Rage Powder Swords Dance, bring in Roaring Moon if they kill the Amoonguss, go for Tailwind, start going for big damage, and you know, Zacian could just potentially sweep. The one advantage with Zacian, right, that I will say is the speed tier itself. You are faster than the other base 135s. You are faster than Koraidon. You are faster than Miraidon. You are faster than Chien-Pao. And because of that, you can win the speed tier. Your speed tier list is much more clear, right? You don't have speed ties, okay? There's nothing with the same speed tier as Zacian running around. So you just have to worry about the Calyrex, which outspeeds you. But other than that, you are the fastest thing in the format, you know, besides of the Tailwinds and the Choice Scarfs right now. So that's the one thing that is a little bit more clear with Zacian as opposed to some of the other restricteds. But as we go down, Christopher Hahn says, look, I like Iron Hands here on these teams. Gives me a better Trick Room matchup against the Ice Rider. Yes, sure, why not? Go for it. We also have a rental, by the way, so you can always use our Swordfish rental. It almost just looks like these. Rafael Barga, right? Bagara, like, again, this is one of the earlier builds. That is still good even right now, so you can definitely utilize this. Notice how they went with the Mystic Water as opposed to the Scarf. Look at this. It is Ability Shield Tornadus. I like that. You know, again, canceling out the Weezing shenanigans. So that's a nice little small tech change there that makes all the difference in front of these Weezing teams. I didn't look at Gabriel's team over here. I want to say it's the same idea, and it is. Oh, Terra Bug Urshifu is actually very interesting. But it's Ice Beam Kyogre, not 3 water moves, so that's also pretty cool. And that's pretty much it. Like, again, you see some of these other 5-3 teams with the Iron Jugulus, the Serenas, denying priority from Rillaboom and Raging Bolt Thunderclap, right? And all very familiar and all. That's a Merkle, by the way. That's pretty cool from Keith Miller. But all in all, not too many day 2s from them. The builds are still the same. Let's see what happens in the next VR tour. Miraidon Terapagos, again, like we mentioned earlier, was the more preferred way to use the Calm Mind idea with the Pagos. There were some pretty good results besides, again, the top 8 finish from Francesco. But not all too much, right? There's still like just a few of them, right? Because I think it's still like a fairly new archetype that still needs to be explored a little bit more, and it will get that time because we have a lot of time now between now and into the World Championships, right? Let's look at Thomas Irwin's build over here. This one utilizes also the Sinistra idea, and that's the key. You have Miraidon, you have Calm Mind, Pagos, and you have the Sinistra here. We explained how good Sinistra here is in terms of supporting the Pagos, especially against fighting type moves because of redirection into a ghost type attack. Ghost type. Iron Treads with Miraidon. Very good idea. Again, Ogerpon Wellspring with Instant Firewater Grass Core. Taunt Ogerpon Wellspring. Very, very nice choice there. Okay. This one just straight up uses Urshifu instead of the Wellspring Ogerpon. And this is the Choice Scarf Rain Dance. We've seen this a little bit earlier, right? I believe that's the same as Francesco over here. Is that also what we're looking at with Nick Williams? Let's see. No, it's just Aqua Jet Taunt Urshifu though. No Scarf Rain Dance. And it's AV Miraidon. This is Iron. This is Choice Band Iron Treads. Whereas the other ones were Life Orb, right? So, you know, variance in item. But again, still can play very similarly, but the items and the sets make all the difference. Ryan's here. This is Life Orb. This is Taunt Ogerpon. This is Sash Sinistra. And yeah, more or less the same idea. So you can utilize either of these builds. I think it makes sense right now. I want to spotlight this one right here. This one with the Iron Valiant here just because of Cork Drive. Again, I'm surprised that there's no Wyguard here, but again, it's okay. You can still do Disable and Encore stuff here, but very interesting to have no Wyguard on this Valiant here. But all in all, we'll see where this art type lands moving forward. We'll see if it gets another result or another big result at the upcoming VR tour later at the end of this month. But right now, it's a fairly new art type. People are going to experiment more partners than this, but right now, this is where we're at. I'm always interested in looking at Groudon teams because, you know, I feel like it's always like that good non-meta pick that, you know, there's always a few that want to use it and can use, and it always gets like a result here and there. And it did. It got a few results at NAIC. And yeah, look, that's quite a few day 2s there from Groudon. So let's look at Brian Fournier's team over here. Miraidon Groudon is one of the ideas. Otherwise, you can go with Calyrex Ice Rider, but this is the clear best restricted right now, which is very interesting, right? Just because you know, you have to patch up your Ice Rider matchup a little bit. But look at, you got AV Miraidon here, you've got Groudon here with Leftovers, P Blades, Helping Hand, Heat Crash. Okay, Helping Hand next to Miraidon is pretty cool. And it's Parabolic Charge Miraidon, very interesting. Okay, and you know, you can do that because you are a ground type with your Groudon, so it's not gonna hurt you. And then you can also do Discharge stuff if you really want to. Rising Voltage, Raging Bolt there. That's a, we haven't seen Rising Voltage in a hot minute, so that makes a lot of sense too. More reliant and dependent on terrain, but obviously when it's up, it does more damage than Bolt. But Iron Bundle, of course, with Miraidon here with the Icy Wind support. Ice Beam is interesting. Yeah, you could do that as opposed to Freeze Dry. The Freeze hacks, you can still get it with Ice Beam, but they want the Ice Beam. You know, guess they didn't really care about Urshifu when you have a Miraidon and a Raging Bolt, right? So what good is my Freeze Dry? I'd rather just have Ice Beam, right? That can do a little bit more damage. They've got Ferrogap here, of course, and it's looks like a relatively standard Whimsicott, but it has a Grass Knot there. Very interesting. Leftovers Groudon, by the way, with the Terrafire. So lots of recovery here. Interesting set. Cool result. Love the team. Mao Harada going a little bit more traditional. I want to say it's Rinya, not really Rinya Sun. You do have the Grimmsnarl and the Incineroar here. Okay. And once again, it's AV Miraidon with Parabolic Charge. So that could be a combination that you might see and try to build yourself moving forward, because clearly it's working with some of these guys. Fluttermane going for Icy Wind as opposed to Iron Bundle. Then you've got Volcarona over here. double fire type. So Struggle Buff, Fire Dance, Quiver Dance, Protect. So no Tailwind, but you got the screens from the Grimmsnarl. Actually, you got one screen because you got Parting Shot and Thunder Wave. Okay, so that's cool. Yeah, very interesting idea from Mal. So I think that's always going to be a little bit different. Jeremy Boyd says, look, I like Ice Rider. So, you know, we liked Koraidon, Calyrex Ice Rider. This was like our build, you know, just with Groudon instead. You know, Instant Amoonguss Ice Rider, and then you add Groudon, Raging Bolt, and Fluttermane. Yeah, like that's like that's like Koraidon right there. But Groudon also likes this too, I guess. It's Life Orb Groudon, okay, with high horsepower and Heat Crash there, Instant AV, Raging Bolts, Booster Energy. Yeah, very standard kind of team there. So shout outs to Jeremy. You know, 8 and 4 is still pretty cool with Groudon there. And then David, we actually have the rental for this one. David Ochoa is one of our viewers on our channel. And, you know, he gave us the rental. So we're going to try and feature this soon, of course. And it's not Parabolic Charge Miraidon. Okay, it's Specs with AV Groudon with Crunch and Fire Punch. Okay, we've got Fire Instant. We got Fire Volcarona. We got a lot of fire types here. And Whimsicott, again, standard set there with you know, Encore Light Screen. And here's Ferrograph there. So no Iron Hands, but we've got the Ferrograph there. That's okay. Ooh, I like that. Look at that tech. We've got Gravity Tech. Ooh, that's going to be important there, right? So, you know, that's obviously that's for Precipice Latency, right? So that's going to be kind of funny when that happens there. So I almost forgot Ferrograph gets Gravity there. So smart tech there from David. Hopefully when we use this for the rental, we can actually utilize this and, you know, not have to worry about P-Blades missing. But otherwise, you know, just damage is nice. How about the Psychic Fangs tech? Breaking screens. Right, that's a cool move. That we got 2 techs on this thing. Oh, I like this Ferrograph set. You know, hopefully we'll use. Yeah, we'll definitely use this, and we have the rental, so stay tuned. That's a pretty cool idea for Groudon here. And then last one here, Noah Gardner, 7-5 Groudon here. Screens Volcarona, Ice Rider. Again, we like Ice Rider with our Groudons, and Wide Guard with Iron Valiant also makes sense here with coaching. Yeah, Iron Valiant was also something I was looking at. You know, with these two. And the screens and Volcarona just also makes sense, but I was definitely looking at these 3 in the builder just because, again, coaching, wide guard support, and you know, you have Raging Bolt there with the Bolt Beam coverage with Calyrex Ice Rider makes a lot of sense. So what we're saying now is, look, we can go with Grimmsnarl screens. We have the Leech Seed idea, which we're going to take advantage of and just outbulk everything with the coaching boost and start damaging stuff as well. Like, look, you got +1 Assault Vest with the special defense. Now you can get a defense boost with coaching, and you get an attack boost with the coaching idea behind the Iron Valiant. So I like that a lot, and that solves your opposing Ice Rider problem because you got Wide Guard on your team. So I like that a lot. And Volcarona is your strong fire type in the sun. Fiery Dance is going to do a lot in the sun, and if you get a Quiver Dance off, it's just going to potentially sweep. And this becomes the end game option behind Grimmsnarl screens because you can set up your Quiver Dance. So I like this too. So all in all, there's still ideas being explored. Look, even Lunadon had some ideas here, just like with you know, Jumpluff there, and then Raging Bolt stuff there. You know, sleep stuff. You know, with the Lilligant. There's Groudon teams. Okay, I don't know about that one, but yeah, I mean. There's exploration. Like, people are using Groudon. Look, this is 1 win away from day 2. Who knows, right? What these teams could have done there. But I like the exploration. I think Lunala is the other good partner besides Groudon, just because you have Wide Guard support against another Ice Rider or against another Kyogre, for example. I think if you're going to use Groudon, I think, you know, just solving the Kyogre and the Ice Rider problem is going to be key. So I think something like, you know, Raging Bolt is important, right? Just to help you deal with that. And as far as like Wide Guard, you need something else. You know, if you want to use Iron Valiant, yes, you can. Otherwise, a good fire type or maybe an Amoonguss that can click Spore and Trigger will also help you out there. Kyogre Calyrex Ice Rider also had some familiar ideas leading up until this point, especially, you know, Nick Navarre just reutilizing his team that he used before, you know, with the Basculegion Life Orb idea. You can always use Urshifu in this sense, but they like the Swift Swim idea. It means you don't have to commit the Scarf, obviously, and, you know, you have the super effective ghost damage against, you know, something like Shadow Rider or even like Lunala stuff, right? Then you can go this direction where you can use the Smeargle, right? Smeargle having a field day in this international with decorate. So you can decorate the Ice Rider, you can decorate the Kyogre, go for these big water spouts, these big glacial lances. And, you know, under Trick Room, you can underspeed both and then just, you know, just go for it, right? So it makes a lot of sense. Otherwise, you can just go like this, you know, with Blake Silver and just say, you know what, I've got Trick Room, I've got Leech Seed, I also have Tailwind here. So I can play 2 modes here depending on how I want or the matchup, which means I wouldn't be surprised if this Kyogre had some speed investment, but not a whole lot, right? Junshi over here, similar idea. I think it's the same exact kind of team here, right? More or less, except, oh, this is Specs Fluttermane. Hello. Okay, and it is, of course, still Decorate Smeargle having a field day with some of these guys. Was this also Specs? I think I missed that. Oh, it was. Oh, they were both Specs. Oh, wow. Okay, so maybe there was some commonality over there. Maybe that was a team that was just going around there. There we go. There's Gavin Michaels. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I always see these two with like using rain and stuff. Like sometimes I confuse the two. All right, that is completely my fault over there. This one also utilizes Chien-Pao, by the way. So like you'll see the, you know, Kyogre, Tornadus, Urshifu, Amoonguss core, then you add Chien-Pao here, and now you just slap on a restricted here, and they chose Calyrex Ice Rider. So that's from Keon over there. Otherwise, oh, Kent Wong is someone that we're familiar with, right? It's been a while since we've seen Kent, but more or less the same idea. Again, Instant, Amoonguss, Calyrex, there's your Trick Room core. Give me the Smeargle while you're at it, and then Specs, Fluttermane, and the Water Spout coming from a Kyogre. So that is a little bit more development coming from that archetype besides the Iron Jugulus stuff there. So yeah, we'll see what happens if there's a little bit more innovation with these guys. But right now, the hype around the Paint Dog is real. All right, so now we're at the point in the video where we're gonna just, you know, shout out and preview a couple of teams that were a little bit unique in their sense that normally you wouldn't see amongst the traditional archetypes. Starting right over here, 8 and 4 from Fiona, a very well-known VGC player who has had a ton of success in the past. How about utilizing the AV Okidogi, right? So you've got AV Okidogi, you know, again, Guard Dog, you don't care about Incinerate or Intimidate. In fact, it'll be bad if they do bring it. Snarl, Gunk Shot, Low Kick, and Drain Punch. How about that set? And that is Covert Cloak Instant, by the way. So that's pretty cool. Other than that, standard Calyrex, standard Miraidon, Landorus also, oh, with U-Turn, Choice Scarf. Yes, I like that a lot. That was pretty cool. Okay, then as you scroll further down, there was also a couple of other cool teams. How about Alejandro? Again, looks like Hard Trick Room, utilizing, you know, the Enamorous Therian, which you hardly ever see in VGC right now, or even in other formats, I guess, right? Just because. But again, can do a ton of damage with Choice Specs. So that's exactly what we're looking at over here. Again, special sweeper that's not named Torkoal, not reliant on weather. That's usually what you'll see in this slot. Usually it's a Torkoal, but in this case, we're going with Enamorous Therian with Overcoat. So you don't have to suspect yourself to Amoonguss and the Spore Sap. By the way, that is Imprison Calyrex Ice. They're sick of the mirror, yes, and you've seen that already. So yeah, people are definitely enjoying the Imprison idea, right? But as we keep scrolling down, we have some other ideas that people have been also utilizing. Ben Emerson right here. How about the Iron Moth with Miraidon over here? So Cork Drive, again, Flamethrower, Heat Wave, Dazzling Gleam, Terra Fairy. That's a set there. And it's Magnet Miraidon with Protect, by the way, which is very interesting. Not Specs, not Scarf, not AV. Magnet is the item of choice over here. Covert Cloak Instant yet again. Ice Beam Iron Bundle, we saw that earlier. Because again, you have 2 electric types here. You don't need a Freeze Drive per se. You can just opt for a stronger single target Ice Beam and not miss out on some of those KOs here. Rocco Beckman, this is again one of those hard Trick Room archetypes. And again, look at this. It's the same 5 mods. The only difference here, instead of Torkoal, instead of the Enamorous, you get the Alchemy here. And this is your Decorate mod. So you got 2 Decorate options here. The only difference is Sweet Veil is busted. Okay, just try ahead and go and sleep in that Sweet Veil, right? Let's see what happens. As we move down here, how about this one? It's not every day you get to see Miraidon and Koraidon on the same team, but here it is. Screens, Instant, yes, makes sense. Then you've got Iron Treads over here, your ground type with the Sash. So this is pretty cool. It's Electric Seed, Koraidon, Leonard Craft. My goodness, you've outdone yourself. Body Press Koraidon, by the way. Yes, you see that right there. Body Press Koraidon, Electric Seed. Again, you got the defense boost. Now you can go for Body Press. Triple digit defense stat there, so don't underestimate it. And Miraidon with Snarl with the AV set. Yes, we've seen that already. It's Ability Shield Ensign, okay? Again, you know, they're afraid of the wheezing stuff there, I guess, right? So pretty cool stuff there from Leonard. Again, Miraidon and Koraidon. I don't know if there was any other team that was like that besides this. So yeah, that's also why we're looking at. And then how about this? One of our favorites, of course, that's going to come on the channel soon. Giratina Origin. Okay, again, with Levitate and Terra Fire, Calyrex Ice Rider cannot hit you. You cannot click Glacial Lance. You cannot click High Horsepower because, again, of Levitate. And then Shadow Sneak is just so strong against stuff like, you know, Calyrex Shadow Riders and Lunalas. If you can just break their Shadow Shield, break their Sash, you know, you have Grassy Glide, you have Sucker Punch, right? You have Tailwind support on your team. You have Light Screen, which is really good. You have a ton of bulk, which means you can outlast some of these, you know, Astral Barrages right now, especially if they don't have a Life Orb support. Giratina Origin is very, very bulky. Now you add Chien-Pao, it's going to start doing a lot of damage here. You don't see too many Zacian Miraidon teams here, but we've got one from Emilio Forbes, Whimsicott, Zacian Miraidon, again, Firewater, I'm sorry, Dragon Fairy Steel Core coming out here. With Tailwind support here with Chiyu, Urshifu, and Furgraf, again, for your Trick Room matchup. Looks pretty standard in all honesty, but nice to see a pretty cool result there from Emilio. Then, as we keep going, all right, some other cool teams here that I want to also spotlight there. I always forget where they are. I even wrote down their placements, but then it all got mixed up when I clicked this magic button that I have over here. But there was a few others. We'll come and see them. There was a Reshiram team, which I'm trying to find here. This one has Araquanid. Look at this. Araquanid, again, Y-Guard user. So that's going to help, right? And it's also a Trick Room Sweeper that you can also utilize, especially with Terra Water. Is going to do a lot of damage. Where was it? I'm trying to find it here. I can always just search Reshiram, right? But I'm just trying to find a couple more teams down here. This one is I think we missed it here. Oh, there it is. Right, there we go. Hunter O'Brien Grayson, right? Reshiram is here. There was also a Heatran team over here. Yeah, look at this. We got Heatran. Let's look at Heatran first. Oh yeah, I remember this set, right? Magma Storm, Will-O-Wisp, Taunt, Protect. Again, you trap things. You have the Terra Bug to resist the fighting weakness. Things are taking a ton of chip damage. You got Leech Seed, so you can't even switch out of this. So look, you got Leech Seed and Magma Storm ideas, okay? And that's just gonna put things in range for the Glacial Lance, right? So that's a pretty cool tag. I respect that. And you've got Reshiram in day 2. Look at this. Life Orb, Reshiram with Turbo Blaze. Okay, Blue Flare, Draco Meteor, Earth Power. I want to feature this team. Hunter, make the rental. Let's use it on the channel. Okay, Instant Amoonguss, Calyrex, you know what you're getting there. Choice Scarf, Annihilate, sure, why not? And an Ogre, Pound Wellspring. So here we go, Reshiram with friends. That's really what this looks like to me. Reshiram and friends. Blue Flare is gonna hurt. So is Draco Meteor. Earth Power is okay. You have something to hit a fire type with. But yeah, this is pretty cool. So shout outs to Hunter for, again, utilizing Reshiram day 2. That was pretty cool. So all in all, what did I see, man? 1,100 players. Okay, lots of room for innovation. Okay, and there's a lot of time from now until then. There's going to be a lot more grassroots tournaments. There's a VR challenge coming up at the end of June. So people are going to take the data from this, adapt their ideas a little bit, bring it to VR. We'll get new updated meta from that, right? Assuming people want to release the sauce early. But then we have all of July, and you know what July means. It's all about testing and grinding there. So if that is something that you're trying to do and you need help, sign up for coaching on the channel. Tier 3 sub gets you a one-on-one team building session with me where we get to build squads from scratch. I get to show you how to create EVs for these mons. I show you how to optimize EVs. We go through matchups, okay? And if you go for tier 4, then I start looking at battles. I start giving you feedback, and I start fixing your gameplay as opposed to only team building, right? So if that's something that you want to explore, sign up for that as well. But other than that, if you want just something to play and ladder with, if you have like a side tournament that you just want to play in, we can help you that with as well, right? So feel free to sign up and message us on Discord once you do. All right, but that's gonna do it for now, folks. We'll be back with another video in the next one. Peace out and have a good one.